In this video we're going to make another little miniature doll shaped cake. This time we're going to do it for a bride. So I've just got a small little cake here. This one's just a 4-inch one that I've put in the freezer for a little while so it's hardened, so that I'm not going to squash it when I change the shape of it. And I've just put some buttercream filling in the middle, and I've just got a cake board that's the same size as my cake, and we're just gonna cut those top edges off the cake. Now it's quite hard with it being in the freezer, and I'm gonna probably make quite a bit of a mess with it. And this is just exactly the same as we did in the other cake video where we made the little doll cake. And you can use any type of cake you want really with it. Although fruit cake isn't very easy to sculpt into a shape, so I would use a type of sponge. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. Just off my work surface a little bit. Okay. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of buttercream just onto my cake board so that it sticks. I'm just going to place that onto there like that. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is just cover the whole cake in a thin layer of buttercream. So I've just now got a bit of white fondant or sugar paste, which I just need to make nice and soft. I probably won't need all of this bit actually, so I'll take a little bit off. I'm going to roll it nice and thin, and we're just going to put an overall covering on the cake that we've done. Now I've managed to get a couple of little cake crumbs in my icing, so make sure you've cleared your workspace properly, unlike me. This is just going to be an undercoat for the skirt anyway though, so if you do get any little marks on it, don't worry about it too much, because we will cover it up. Okay. So when you think it's big enough, we're just going to move our cake over, and we're just going to pop that over the top and smooth it on. It's a little bit bumpy at the moment, but we'll try and smooth some bumps out, and like I said, we're going to add more layers over the top anyway. So if you get creases in, don't worry. Okay. So I'm just rubbing it now to smooth it out a little bit. I'm just going to trim off any extra around the bottom. Like that. And you'll see the buttercream squeezed out onto my board, so we'll have to give that a bit of a clean again. Okay, so we're going to decorate like the skirt bit now of the cake. You can do it however you like. I'm going to use some little petal cutters, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do half with a sort of straight fabric effect and half with little petal ruffles. So I'm just going to draw a line where I want each bit to go. So I'm going to do a swooping bit that kind of comes across down here. So now I'm going to put petals on this side and fabric on this side. I don't know how well you can see that on there. So for my little petals, again, I'm just going to use a bit of fondant. If you find it easier to use the flour and modelling paste, then do that. It makes it a little bit stiffer. But you'll find if you're rolling it really thin, it does make it a little bit easier to use. Okay. So just make sure it's not sticking to your work surface as you're rolling it. If it is, just put a little bit of corn flour on, like so. So I'm just going to use a little rose cutter. Again, you can use different sizes, different shapes. I'm just going to cut that out, and if you've got a sponge pad, you can do this on a sponge pad. I'm just going to do it on my hand, and I'm just going to use a balling tool just to thin the edges of my petal like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to build these all the way around, and we're just going to stick them using a little bit of water at the top of that petal, and I'm just going to stick that down at the bottom edge of the skirt like that. Okay, so we're going to do a few more of these. And overlap them as you go along. And then you'll go sort of to halfway at the back, and then you'll start building above them as well. So I'll put this one above. Okay, and we'll just keep doing that all the way around. So I've put my little petals. It's actually not as far as halfway across, and what I'm going to do is a design that covers either side, so any neat edges will cover up. Okay, so what we're going to do is go back to our white fondant. I'm just going to roll it quite long. I'm just going to make sure I've got some more corn flour down so it doesn't stick. And I'm just rolling it now a bit wider, a little bit longer. Careful not to crease it like I'm doing. Okay. And what we're going to do is cut off some strips. So I'm just going to cut that bit of an edge off there, because it was sort of cracking a little bit on the edge. And I'm going to cut a strip like that. Just get rid of that bit of that. So I've just got a little bit of sponge here, and I'm just going to put it on there and use my balling tool just on the edge. Now I've rolled mine quite thick, so it's not waving very well on the edges, so you might want to roll it a little bit thinner if you want more of a wave on these edges. Okay, so what we're going to do now is stick this onto the dress. So let's move it round. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of water on the dress, and we're going to bring it round here. So I'm going to put my water around here, and what we'll do is we'll bring the pleat to around the back. So starting here, we'll put it over and just make sure it's going, sorry if I've put my head in shot. So just make sure it's overlapping, and you can play around with the edge and pull it up and into the positions you want it to go. And then this edge bit, I'm just going to bring round the back, and I'm just going to pull it off halfway like that. Just make sure it's stuck on there. Okay, and we're going to do the same again and overlap it. So if you've got enough, just cut another strip from here. Just move that over. So exactly the same again. We're going to put a bit more water on the skirt, just on this top edge of the last piece that we put on. You can use edible glue if you prefer to use edible glue. So going over that last one. Now, depending on how many pleats you want on it, you can fold it a little bit as you're putting it on. Now, if you want it really ruched, don't leave a very big gap between the two little strips that you're adding on, put them quite close together. If you don't want to put as many layers on, just space them out, make each strip that you're putting on a little bit thicker or wider. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that. So I'll add a few more until I come to the top, and then we'll do the same on the other side. So you'll see I've got a few more layers on there. Now as I'm getting to the closer to the top, I've made it a little bit wider. So we're going to try and put just one more on now to fill that last bit of space. So I'm going to cut it at a bit of a curve this time. And I'm going to cut it so it's got a bit of a point that will go up here. And then we'll cut it so it comes large around here. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the far end because I'm going to cover it up when we do the other side of the dress. So I'll remove some of this stuff. Just thin that edge again. Back to putting a bit more water or edible glue just on top of the one that you've previously added. I'm going to put a bit extra on the skirt itself. Okay, so we're going to start with the point up at the middle and come round. So my piece is probably a lot bigger than I need it to be. And what I'm going to do is cut it off here at the back. And what I'll do is just use a little bit of this bit that I've got left to fill in that gap there. So I'm just going to round off that edge, and I'm literally just going to put that on that space there, like that. And then you can play around with the edge if you want to stick it up anywhere. Just gently pull up a bit at the edges. Okay, and now we're going to do the frills for the other side of the skirt. This is where it starts becoming more difficult with where you can and can't touch your dress. So because it's becoming more and more difficult to move it around, what I'm going to do is place it on the actual cake that it's going to go on. Now even though this is a cake inside, I've just made a really small thin cake that it's going to go on top of. And what I'm going to do is push my doweling into the cake so it goes right through to the board at the bottom, and I'm just going to put a little line on where it comes to with the pen, and I'm going to cut that off and stick it back in the cake. So I'll just put a little indentation around that dowel with some scissors, and then it should just break off like that. Okay, now you want to do a couple more so that it supports the weight of your doll. So you just want to make sure they're all the same size, so put them next to each other and just mark them off and repeat. So what I'm going to do now is just put a little bit of royal icing on top of the cake so that then sticks to it when I find my royal icing, or you can use buttercream as well. Just going to put a little bit on. We don't want too much because otherwise it'll end up sliding about. And I'm just going to make sure that the front is facing the front on it. I hope I haven't put my head in the way. Like that. So just check from this side that it looks alright. Yep. Okay, and now we can start working on the other side. And because it's in place, we don't need to worry about squashing all the ruffles when we move it around. Same again. Just going to roll it out. Mine's sticking to my rolling pin a little bit. I'm going to cut it into some strips. So again, I'm going to cut it this time in a bit of a curve, which will go down like that. And we'll trim it, and we'll take a little bit off for now, and what we'll do is we'll trim it again to the right size, either when it's on the cake, or if you've got it the right size to start with, then great. that might fit exactly like that anyway. So I'm going to thin the edge. If you want to use your little foam mat, you can do. And of course you can thin it along that bottom straight edge that we've put as well. And I'm just going to put some water onto the back of this one. And then we're going to overlap it over our little rose petals that we've added. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull the edges into a nice position as to how I want them. And I'm going to repeat the same again a couple more times till we've filled in that little gap. What I want to do for my last bit is add like a bit of an oval shaped piece, which basically will cover up all the gap that I've got left. So just have a look at what gap you've got left on yours, and then just roll out your piece according to that. And mine's got a bit wet, so it's a little bit sticky. So just hold it against it till you're happy with it. And it's not a perfect shape, but it just covers over that gap quite nicely, or it will do when I make it a little bit wider. I'm just pushing that in place in that last piece. Now, because I've managed to get a bit of a tear there, I think I'm just going to add one more piece. So I'll just add one more little bit into that spot. Thinning out the edges a little bit. And that's it. So all the pieces of our skirt then on. So you can see all the way around. And then we just need to add the body and head and arms. So I've now got some flour and modelling paste, which I've just put a little bit of the Fresh Paprika sugar flare gel into to get it the right colour for what I'm after. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a mix. Now, if your sugar and modelling paste gets a bit sticky, just add a little bit of Trex to it. And Trex is just vegetable fat. So what we're going to do now is make a body, and then we'll dress the body in the bridal outfit afterwards. So I'll take just some of this off, and I'm going to roll it so it's almost like a little bit of a triangle but fat at the sides. So we'll just see size wise what that's going to be like. So I might take a little bit off the bottom of that, because I don't want it to be too big a body. So I'll just narrow that down again at the bottom. Okay, and what I want to do now is just pinch a little bit around here to create a bit of a neck, like so. Just flatten the top of the neck off a little bit. Okay, and just square off the shoulders a little bit. I'm just going to push down there to give her, make it a little bit flatter above where a bust would be, and then just a bit of an indentation under there so that she's got a bit of a bust. Okay, and just keep trying it for size. Make sure you're happy with the size, so I'll make that just a little bit longer. And you don't want your shoulders too wide, because when you add the arms they'll look a bit like a rugby player if you're not careful. Okay, now using a modelling tool, you can just put a little indentation down the centre to give a little bit of a cleavage like that. Just make sure you don't get too much bulk on the back of it as well. I'm just going to stick my modelling tool either side so that the neck stays in shape. Okay, if you want to add collarbones, just put a little line either side, and you can add one that goes up the middle as well, like that. So just play around with it until you're happy with the shape. Okay, and what we need to do now is try and get this little stick inside the body. So you might even find it easier to start from the neck. Although it has worked okay going that way. Okay. Now you just want a little bit poking out the top that we can put the head on. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll just check that it goes into the dress okay. So I'll just turn around that round so I can see. I put that in at an angle slightly. Obviously you want your bride to be upright. Okay, so we're going to just take a little bit of the white modelling paste. So I'll just knead this a bit to soften it. I'm just going to start by rolling it nice and thin. Just move that to one side. And then what I like to do is just put it on and wrap it around so I can see how long it needs to be to fit on my figure. So I reckon about there. Just move that over about there. So I've just put little score lines on this one, and roughly the width my piece of icing needs to be. If you get it a little bit too short, you should be able to stretch it a little bit. Okay, now I'll cut this a little bit straighter across the front there, and what I'm going to do now is create a bit of a sweetheart neckline. So I've just got a square cutter. You can use a heart one, anything basically that's got a little bit of a triangle at the end, so that you can cut out a little triangle shape like that, and then you can put it against your figure like that. Now if you want it to tilt down a little bit either side, I'll just take it across like that. Okay, and again just check you're happy with it. Okay, when you are happy with it, we'll just put some water on the back. So if you find it easier to put it on the body rather than on the back, that's fine. You can put your water on the body, or of course you can use edible glue. Okay, so push that on like so, and then join it around the back. Put a bit more water on the back like that. Okay, then what I'm going to do is just cut this extra bit off. I'll just leave a little bit of an overlap so it's ever so slightly longer than the body. I don't know if you can see that very well. And what I'll do is I'll put some water at the bottom of the body and then fold this under all the way around. And of course if you want, you can bring the front bit to a point so that when we stick her on the dress, it goes down in a V shape, but it's a little bit fiddly. So if you find it easier to just tuck it underneath, that's fine. Okay, and I'm just going to press under a bust a little bit there. Okay, and then it's up to you if you want to leave it quite plain. You might want to put some seams down at either side, like that. You can add glitter and bits and pieces to it if you want something a little bit fancier. I'm going to leave mine quite plain. Okay, so when you're happy with that, I'm just going to put some water on the bottom. Now you can use royal icing if you want, that's a little bit stronger to stick it, or you can put your water on top of your cake. So I'll move that over so you can see. And we're just going to insert that, and what I'll do is pull that little V bit out so it goes forward, and I'll just check I've slotted it in straight. Yep. Okay, so just push it in until you're happy. Just make sure they're as narrow as you want them to go around the waist. You don't want them to be too chunky around the middle. And if your lines have disappeared, just run through them again with your modelling tool. Okay, so what we're going to do now is give her a couple of arms. So taking more of your flesh coloured flour modelling paste, you're just going to roll it into a long thin shape. Okay, and I'm just going to make an indentation here, squash this down a little bit, which will become the hand. Okay, and you're just going to have a look against your body for what length you want it to be. And then I'm going to put in another little indentation for where I'd like her elbow to go. And then mark against where the shoulder is, so that's where I want the shoulder to go, so that's roughly, I think, yeah, the length I want my arm. So what I'm going to do now is just cut that at a bit of an angle, so that when I put that on, it sits a bit flatter to the body. Okay, just make sure you're happy with the thickness of your arm. What we're going to do is just cut out a little triangle from the hand to make it a little bit more hand shaped, like that. Okay, and you're literally just going to stick that on in whatever position you like best. Again, just using a little bit of water at the top of the arm. To get it into place. So you're just going to repeat the same for the other arm. Position your hands where you want them to be. You might want them to be holding something like maybe a bouquet. You might just want them to have one hand on top of the other, like that. Now if you want to cover the joins, we'll just give them some sleeves. Because it's not as nice where you can see the join there on the arm. So you started with a ball that you've rolled so that it's thicker in the middle and thinner either side, and you're just flattening that down a little bit. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll just pop that over the shoulder, like so. And repeat the same for the other one. And if you want, you can add little lines into it, just with your modelling tool. Like so. And what I think I'll do is I might add a little flower to the dress as well. So I'm just going to add a couple of little roses, I think. So I'm going to roll my flower modelling paste, and I'm just going to flatten it a little bit, and I'm just going to roll it into a big swirl like that. So I'll just put a bit of water on the back of there, and then work out whereabouts you want it to go on your dress and just push it in place. And you can have one, you can have a few, whatever you think looks best really. So again, some water on the back of that. Just tuck that one in next to that one. And now we need to add a head. So I'm just softening up my modelling paste again. And the most difficult bit now is probably getting the right amount for the right size head. So just roll it into a ball, just a rough ball to start with. Sorry, that's my oven going off. So you can see size wise if it's the right size. So when you're happy with the size, just make sure you've rolled it into a ball to start with, and that you've rolled out any cracks and creases. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just put an indentation sort of across the middle like that. And then I'm going to just push in with my fingers to create like some eye sockets. Now you can use the ball tool for that if you prefer. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is just pinch a little bit here for the chin. And I'm just going to flatten it a little bit by rubbing it on my board. Your chin shape on there, so that your face is becoming a bit more oval in shape now. Like that. And again, just make sure you're still happy with the size of your head. And we're just going to add a little button nose. Like that. And we'll add a couple of little ears. So again, 2 little round bits. Now I do have a video on making a basic face, so if you want to have a look at the other video and one on a slightly more advanced face, then if you have a look at the links now, and they'll take you to the videos where I explain a little bit better about how to do the faces. So push down my ears. I'm just going to use the bottom end of my paintbrush to push into the centre of my little ears like that. I think one ear might be slightly higher than the other. Okay. And I'm just going to take a cocktail stick and just push into the centre of the eye, and I'm just going to wiggle it about a little bit to open it up. And you're going to do the same in the other eye. Try and keep them similar size wise if you can. Okay. And I'm going to just add a little smile with my modelling tool. If you want to give them dimples, just use the bottom end of your paintbrush to buff in a couple of dimples. Okay, now I'm just going to use my Petal Craft colours. Now people keep asking where I've got these from. I got them from a cake fair ages ago. I have dropped them many times, so they're a bit broken, but they just say Petal Crafts on the front, so anybody that is after buying them, just look up Petal Crafts online and you should be able to find them. So with a dry brush, I'm just using a little bit of pink on the cheeks, like that. You just want to make sure you haven't got any water on the face, otherwise it will go funny where you put the powder on. Okay, now if you want, you can leave your face to dry before you add all your other features and bits and pieces so that you're not squashing it. If you are in more of a rush, you can just add them. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of water in each of these eyes. And you can use black or you can use a different colour. I've got really dark brown, but I thought you can't tell a huge difference between the dark brown and the black, so I'm going to use this because it was to hand. You just want to roll a couple of little balls for your eyes. You want to try and get them even in size, which mine aren't. Again, getting them the same size is quite difficult. Okay, so when you're happy with the size, you're just going to gently pop that in the little eye socket that you've done. And again with the other one. Like that. And then we're going to paint on some eyebrows. So I'm just using a dark brown sugar flare one. I should have probably got a thinner brush for this. She might end up with quite fat eyebrows. So I'm just going to paint some tiny little eyebrows. They are a little bit thicker than I would have liked, but if you do it wrong, just clean off your brush and you can just wipe the bits where you've gone wrong gently until you get them down to being what you want them to be like. And I'm going to get a thinner brush for my eyelashes. Right, so I've just got the licorice sugar flare one. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that on my paintbrush. And then I'm just going to paint on some little eyelashes. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing at this side or not. I'm just giving her eyelashes at both sides to match. Okay. And when you add your head to your body, obviously make sure you've not covered in food colouring like I am, otherwise it ends up on your head. You just want to make sure that this stick's not too tall that it'll come out at the top of the head. In fact, we've not given her some lips, let's give her some lips. So I'm going to use a pink, you can use a red or whatever colour you want. And I'm just going to put like a tiny semicircle on her bottom lip, which at the moment looks a little bit like she's sticking her tongue out. Just make sure it's even. And then on the top you want two little semicircles. Now I'm just going to have to turn this around a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. And then you can push your head onto your stick. Now I'm going to pop that far enough in, sorry, that you can see what I'm doing. So that's just going to push onto there like that. Okay. And just make sure it's at an angle that you like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is before adding the hair, I'm going to leave that overnight so that her head has had a bit of chance to stick on. Otherwise you'll find that when we add the head starts to move about a bit much if we've not let it set. So my head's now had time to set onto the body, and I've just mixed a dark brown for my hair colour Again, you can use your modelling paste or your fondant, whichever you prefer. You see I've managed to dye my fingers a complete different colour while I was waiting for the head to set. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of water to the back of the head. Now, again, you can use edible glue if you prefer to do that. And I'm going to start from the back of the head and work my way around. And literally this one, I'm just going to give little curls. So I'm going to take a little bit of the modelling paste and just roll it so it's a bit thinner at one end. And what I'm going to do is just twizzle it, just like that, okay? And I'm going to push that on to the back of the head. Now I don't know how well you can see it. And I'm going to do these basically all the way around. Now, if I make these really long, the curls tend to fall out, so I'm going to keep them a little bit shorter. Okay, so you get the idea. It's literally this all the way around now. So you'll see she's now got more hair. So you can continue putting the curls everywhere if you want. Now I'm modelling mine on my friend Claire, so what I'm going to do is half tie it up and half have it back, because she tends to tie hers back. So I'm just rolling little thin strips and I'm just going to put them from the front of her face and run them to the back of the head. And I'm going to do a few of these. And I'll just check they're going on properly. And I'm literally going to do those until I've filled in the gap on the top of her head. And that's it. That's it finished now. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but I shall put a picture up so you can see the finished little doll cake. Okay, thank you for watching.
If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.